Hi, I'm John Lemons, and welcome to TV Church. Today, we are in historic Mooresville, just off of 565 in North Alabama. You know, TV shows are a great way for us to pass the time or engage our minds. They have compelling stories, are becoming more and more complex in their storytelling, and they have engaging and relatable characters. We can sometimes feel like we are a part of them, so much so that when a show goes off the air, we can feel a legitimate loss, much like the post-holiday blues that people get at the end of the year when Christmas is over and the dark and dreary winter begins. But the fact of the matter is, no matter what we feel, we aren't actually part of these shows. They're not reality. It's hard to know when this phenomenon started, but it mirrors another absence that is felt in our lives, the loss of the presence of friends and family. Only those losses are real. That doesn't necessarily mean that those people are gone. They can still very much be in our very households, and yet a sense of the loss of their presence can still be real. In 1950, the average American family dinner was 90 minutes long. By 2010, it was 17 minutes long. The average parent these days spends only 38.5 minutes per week in meaningful conversation with their children. And just weeks ago, the Wall Street Journal reported on the loss of family mealtime even when the families are still living under the same roof. So we can see a loss of our loved ones even while they are still physically with us. When was it that we as a society began to experience the same emotions over the loss of TV shows as we did over the loss of the people in our lives? Where did this line get blurred? My guess is that it started in the 1950s with the introduction of the television into American homes. Suddenly, the time that we spent unwinding from our days moved from the family table to the family television. As televisions began to be mass marketed in the 1940s, the Saturday Evening Post called it a contraption that would never catch on. Yet years later, they would label this era from 1947 to 1960 the golden age of television. Some of the quintessential images of American life from this time are captured well in the works of Norman Rockwell, a famous illustrator for the Post whose images captured depictions of classic American life. Many of the images depict the American family together and oftentimes around a table. But as the years tick by in the images of American life in those days, the so-called golden age of television, you do begin to see another guest in the room, the TV. And sometimes the TV isn't just a guest in the room, sometimes it's a guest at the table, usually wheeled in on a cart, playing that night's comedic routine on a variety show, the family around the table with plates of food and smiles as they look not to each other, but towards the screen. But TV has not only changed the way that we live and the way that we relate to one another, it has also changed how we value one another and how we value the worthwhile things in our lives. It's an unbearable pressure to put on our family members and friends to live up to the joy and entertainment value that is brought to us by Jackie Gleason, Lucille Ball, the Bradys, the MASH unit, the Keatons, or a band of friends or workers in the office. Or worse, in today's age, the device that we have on our other hand under the table that we keep sneaking glimpses at. Trust me, I'm speaking to myself here as much as I'm speaking to anybody. Our culture has ingrained in us that everything must be transactional. I get something from you, you get something from me. But life isn't always transactional, particularly relationships. A father and an infant is a bad transaction. A wife and an incapacitated husband, that's a bad transaction. God exchanging himself for us is a bad transaction. But the value of the table with my family is not in the individual moments. I don't always get out of the experience anything in particular. There's not always anything of any particular value or the promise that it won't be boring, but there is a cumulative value, and that's harder to track. It's the value of a people that have committed themselves to me, committed to rejoice when I rejoice, and weep when I weep, and with whom I do the same, no matter what. Because life and love isn't meant to be a transaction. A TV show is a transaction. A table isn't. So TV's transactional, but the table's not. And this brings us to how we view church. Have we, as a culture, viewed church as transactional?
I'm still in your presence, and all the noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. You're the fire in the morning, you're the cool in the evening, the breath in my soul, you're the life in my bones. There is no hesitation in your love and affection. It's the sweetest of all. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Touch from you. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven.
I don't remember a lot of meals or even things set around the table, but that doesn't diminish the value of that time. We are still shaped by those moments. I watch a TV show because it makes me laugh. I go to a restaurant because they make the best mac and cheese. But I don't go to my mom's house because she's the funniest person I know or makes the best mac and cheese. I go to my mom's house because it's my mom's table. It's not about the entertainment, it's about the company. It's not about the food, it's about family. Unlike a TV show, I don't tune in to the table because I await the person I'm looking at to bring something meaningful into my life. I tune in because the person I'm looking at is meaningful in my life. Thankfully, I think most of us still capture this purpose around the holidays. The value is not that every meal is the best meal you've ever had or that it's even memorable. The value is that it adds up to a cumulative effect. Like food, the table is nurturing, nourishing, and necessary, even when it's not memorable. In the earliest days of our country, the 1700s, taverns like this one in Mooresville, the Stagecoach Inn and Tavern, they served as the cradle in which the revolutionary spirit was nursed. These were not just restaurants, but stopover points for travelers. In some cases, entertainment or singing could break out, but in all cases, it was a place where travelers knew a meal could be had, a table could be shared, and a warm place to sleep could be secured. They also became pivotal meeting places or social clubs for town regulars. In essence, taverns served as a home away from home, the 18th century version of a bed and breakfast mixed with a civic club. Taverns also proved to be vital to the spread of the revolutionary movement of the 1700s. They became safe havens where word could spread, meetings could be had, meals were shared and bonded over. Men of different stripes who were political opponents who strongly differed on what the future of America should look like, but were united in their cause that she needed to stand on her own. Without taverns, the spirit of the revolution would have had a difficult time spreading. What would it look like if churches could do the same thing now? What would it look like if the church was essential in the same way as taverns during the revolution? Not with people gathered around TVs, but gathered around tables. Is church like a TV show to you, or is it like a table? The intent is for church to be a table. We even feature what we call the Lord's table. And the Bible's depiction of life we have in eternity is around his table. For many of us, church is designed in such a way that we all face forward, we all listen to what's in front of us, and more of us tune in if that which we are listening to is particularly polished, funny, or makes us feel good. It can lead to us approaching church the way that we approach a TV show. If it's not worth my time, I'll turn it off. But it was never meant to be that. The value of the church isn't that it's a TV show, it's that it's a table. Make no mistake, our Lord's last night with his followers was around a table. His resurrection appearance to them was also around a table. And the invitation he extends to us is to his banquet table. There's a quote attributed to the great preservationist John Muir. It says, "I'd rather be in the mountains thinking about God than be in church thinking about the mountains." Now, I love the outdoors and I enjoy the mountains. I get that sentiment. I've sat in more than enough church services where that would have been outdone by time in the mountains or at the lake. But as I've gotten older and been married longer, the conversation has changed whenever my wife and I sit across from one another at the table. I assure you, she can tell you there's nothing earth-shattering or that the average person would find beneficial that I bring to her life. But the cumulative effect of those moments do add up to something that you just can't put your finger on. The conversation changes over time. Sometimes there's still some dreaming, though not as much anymore. Sometimes there's some, here's what's going on at work. And more recently, there's a lot more of, do you remember that time? Those conversations with my wife would make for terrible television, but it's great table talk. And that's the format that our churches are supposed to follow, that sometimes we miss. The pastor is there not to entertain us all and give us a few nuggets of wisdom. He or she is there to lead the conversation, to serve to rekindle the relationship between two parties at the table. A little bit of, here's where we'd like to go, and a little bit of, here's what's going on in my life, and a little bit of, do you remember that time? The call to remember in our time at the table is strong. You'll do that at your mom's table for Thanksgiving. Maybe your friends will talk about old times, or maybe you won't, but the thought still hits you. It's the same when we gather for church. The call to remember in the Bible is strong. When we gather for worship, we gather to remember what the Lord has done. This is what we miss when we see church more like a TV show, or more like a trip to the mountains. God isn't out to entertain us. He doesn't ask us to merely think about Him. The kingdom of heaven, as depicted in the Bible, is a banquet, and we are invited to sit at His table. If you aren't looking forward to that, or don't sense something missing from your life, then I would suggest that you viewed your church more like a TV show. You may or may not have gotten something out of it, but maybe in this time you've realized this is a show that isn't worth much of your time, and you may tune out. For those who continue to view it as a TV show and continue to tune in, your absence may not be noticed. The show will go on without you. But I can assure you, it's not a TV show. It's a table where nothing is there to be particularly gleaned for anyone except the pleasure of one another's presence. And in the conversation, we'll strike up a little bit of dreaming, a little bit of testimony, and a little bit of recalling. If you chose to stay away, there will be an empty spot at that table. And I can assure you, you'll be missed. But the invitation will always be open to come back. In the Bible book that we call John, written by the disciple John, John describes Jesus' arrival on earth as God becoming flesh and making His dwelling among us. The literal word that John uses for made His dwelling among us is the Greek word tabernacle. And that is the word from which we get our English word tavern. So in essence, God, through Jesus, taverned with us, eating, sleeping, and praying, plotting, and planning across the table from us. C.S. Lewis once said, "Enemy-occupied territory, that's what this world is. Christianity is the story of how the rightful king has landed. You might say landed in disguise, and is calling us to take part in a great campaign of sabotage." How could TV church take on the revolutionary role of the 18th century taverns in the spirit of taverning in a culture that views more things through the lens of the TV rather than the lens of the table, or where sitting around a table with our loved ones or even in fellowship with our enemies? In a world where that is becoming less and less common, perhaps the most revolutionary thing we can do is commit to gather around our tables regularly for the nourishing and necessary value they provide. How could that start with you? Maybe it starts with how you engage this program, this TV church. How could TV church become table church for you? Would you consider modeling Jesus' method of tabernacling or taverning among us? How could wherever you watch this program become a safe haven where word could spread, meetings could be had, and meals be shared and bonded over? A place where people of different stripes, but united in a singular cause, could come together. Would you consider making your viewing of this program a church? Who could you invite to watch with you regularly? A gathering where you can watch with friends or family, new and old, followed by sharing time across the table from one another, praying and diving deeper into each week's scripture passage together. We'd love for you to consider that and to let us know how we can partner with you and resource you to make that happen.
We hope you're enjoying TV Church, and we have a request for you. Would you consider hosting a group of friends in your home to watch TV Church together? You could serve snacks or have people bring elements of a meal to eat together. You could gather and watch live at 10 a.m. Sunday mornings on Way TV, or you could record it on TV and watch it together anytime. You could watch together from your computer at tvchurch.online anytime. You don't have to be some kind of expert. You just need to like people. And on top of that, you can invite people you like. People you like who are not part of a church family. We at TV Church would provide you suggested discussion questions, so you could watch together, discuss what you've seen, and then maybe eat together. Or you could snack as you watch. There will be no obligation to First Baptist Church of Huntsville. We produce TV Church, but you don't have to be a part of us to host this in your home. This is just an effort to take the church with a capital C where people are. You could be a part of someone's significant, holistic, eternal transformation right there in your home. Would you be willing to consider being a host? Email Pastor Travis at travis@fbchsv.org. He will get you on the email list to receive discussion questions for the week. Would you consider that?
Every table is an altar. Every breath is a gift from you. Every moment is a treasure. Every day is a kiss from you. And every table is an altar. Every breath is a gift from you. Every moment is a treasure. Every day is a kiss from you. So let our hearts be awake, be awake. Let our hearts be awake, be awake. So let our hearts be awake, be awake. Oh, let our hearts be awake, be awake. Break the bread, pour the wine. Let our hearts come alive in your presence, in your presence. Let our fear fall away, let our faith rise today in your presence, in your presence. Every stranger has a story. Every story's being told by you. We're all children on a journey. And Jesus, only you can lead us through. So let our hearts be awake, be awake. And let our hearts be awake, be awake. And break the bread, pour the wine. Let our hearts come alive in your presence, in your Every stranger has a story, and every story's being told by you. We're all children on a journey. Jesus, only you can lead us through.
Tennessee Valley Church means church has left the building, so has membership. Here's what I mean. You might be feeling a need or maybe even a call from God to be part of our church family in a more tangible way. If you're not able to join us physically here at 600 Governors Drive, whether because of distance, mobility, schedule, or some other reason, you still can be a member of First Baptist Huntsville. Let me send you information on what that would mean, what you could expect from your church, and what your church would expect from you. Email me at travis@fbchsv.org. Let me know of your desire for membership, and I'll help you get started. Join hands with us as we attempt to join hands with God Himself in His mission to the world.